Welcome to the Joy of Cruising podcast with your host, award-winning author Paul C. Thornton, a weekly conversation with the amazing cruisers featured in the Joy of Cruising trilogy, comprised of The Joy of Cruising, Cruising Interrupted, and new release, The Joy of Cruising Again. Each book is a compilation of features about cruisers and cruise and travel personalities from around the world. It's the next best thing to cruising, hearing about cruising from the unique and diverse perspectives of Paul's amazing guests.
Hello, passionate cruisers. Today I am delighted to welcome back to the Joy of Cruising podcast, the Danielle experience. Jennifer is a social media influencer and solo travel content creator. Joy of Cruising podcast first welcomed Jennifer back on episode 23 in June, when she was our first guest brought out on the Joy of Cruising podcast specifically to chat about the rapidly growing, critically acclaimed Virgin Voyages, which she has cruised solo several times. Since then, Virgin Voyages continues to rack up awards in the cruising industry. When Jennifer was here before, Virgin Voyages had just crushed the Cruise Critics Awards. They have since added Travel and Leisure and Conde Nast accolades for #1 Best Megaship and #1 Best Large Ship, respectively. As some of you know, we are booked on our first Virgin Voyages cruise, which also will be our first transatlantic cruise on Scarlet Lady in the spring. Although not on Virgin, we are also booked on our first cruise to the Greek Isles. So when I saw a video featuring Jennifer cruising to the Greek Isles on Virgin's Resilient Lady, literally a day or two after I booked, I knew, admittedly a little selfishly, it was time to invite Jennifer back. Jennifer, welcome back to the Joy of Cruising podcast.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Paul. I'm so happy to be back.
So how you doing?
I am doing fantastic. It's been a crazy couple of months. Hard to believe it's already been, 3 or 4 months since we last spoke, but doing great.
Good. Well, it's so good to have you back. First of all, let me express my gratitude to you. Your June episode continues to kill it, growing even many months later. For our listeners who may have missed that episode, Jennifer, please reintroduce yourself. Where you from? Where do you live? How do you spend your time when you're not growing the Danielle brand?
Yeah, so I am originally from Memphis, Tennessee, but I currently live in Atlanta, Georgia. I am a social media manager, content creator, just anything with social media seems to be what I'm branching into. And when I'm not working on my brand, I'm just enjoying life. At this point, I am enjoying just being outside. I love outdoors. So when I'm not cruising, I'm usually sitting on my patio or sitting in my backyard and just taking in the outdoors and wishing I was cruising.
Well, now you brought up the Danielle brand, and of course I introduced the Danielle brand. Say something about the Danielle brand.
Yeah, so the brand actually began as an accident when I was taking my first solo cruise. My middle name is Danielle, so I keep it very simple. I'm not really creative when it comes to names, so it's my name, Jennifer Danielle. So when I took my first solo trip, I started vlogging and sharing my experience on YouTube and just kind of dabbled in the world of that. And it really expanded into me sharing more tips because I didn't realize that it was something that a lot of people weren't doing at the time, doing solo cruises or at least being vocal about doing it. And so I started sharing content and tips for other people to start doing it. And that's where the brand was birthed and where it really expanded. As a place really for women that are looking to travel by themselves. So it's been going for almost 2 years, and I'm really excited about, the things that are to come and the fact that it's lasted this long.
Yeah, when I sometimes see posts about, people who are curious about solo cruising, and I've actually referred you and I've actually mentioned,
Thank you.
that. Yeah, and I've mentioned that, we've had a podcast about someone who specializes in kind of specializes in solo cruising, and now I'll be, able to say even more because you're back. When we wrapped up in June, you were coming up on some key events. I recall
Mhm.
a big group cruise with Melanin at Sea, the influential 85,000 member cruise affinity group, and you were also planning your own group cruise. Talk about those activities.
Yeah, so the Melanin at Sea cruise was my first experience cruising with a large group. And I actually had a little hesitation going into it because I am a solo traveler and I'm someone that loves to be on my own schedule. I don't do very well with schedules. I tend to
Mm-hmm.
be on time, but I don't do well with having to be places at a certain time. I guess that's the best way to put it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just really amazing going with that group because everything that I was worried about, it didn't happen. I thought that maybe it would feel kind of awkward since it was such a huge group. I think there were over 300 of us on that trip. And so to walk into a group that big can be a little bit intimidating, but the host did a phenomenal job of just making sure that everyone felt included. And I feel like they just have a really great group of people. And it probably goes to the moderation of that group on Facebook. Just because there wasn't any, any drama, there wasn't really any kind of like you can run into like cliques and people that are kind of like forming their own little groups and where you kind of feel left out and you're like, where do I go? But it wasn't any of that because we all were able to just kind of like talk to anybody. And when you saw someone with the shirt, so you saw someone in the group, it was just like, hey, cousin. So, it was really a great experience. And I definitely kudos to Addie and Terry and Rich and Jazzy because they did a phenomenal job with that. So as far as my group trip, we are actually 45 days away. Ironically, today the restaurant's open for us. So it's a big day for us today for my group trip, which is going to be Thanksgiving. So I'm hosting my first Friendsgiving group, and I did it as a result of my solo cruise. So many people having questions about Virgin Voyages and still being a little reserved about cruising by themselves. So I wanted to give solo cruisers an opportunity, and especially people who may not have families or have rocky relationships with their families, give them an opportunity to come out over the holidays. No pressure, spend time with someone who knows the ship and knows a lot about the industry and how to kind of navigate Virgin Voyages. Just really give them a chance to hang out and just really, kind of form their own new tradition if they want to.
So you're pretty happy with your signups?
I am. So I ended up with a group of 30, which is way more than I expected, to be honest. I expected maybe like 5, 10 at the most, kind of like a smaller group. Just because it's just me hosting. And this is my first go around. But I feel really confident. We've done a number of Zoom meetings and they're usually in my inbox and messaging me every other day. So I talk to them pretty often. So I feel confident about it. But I'm really excited to have that many signups my first go around, especially being so new at this.
So are you still accepting signups, or are you set with the group at
I
30?
am. So as long as Virgin Voyages allows me to book and they still have cabins, which I think this sailing is pretty much getting close to capacity, with it being a holiday and everything. I think they last I checked, they only had sea terrace or their balcony rooms left. But as long as they're taking registrations, I'm taking them. So
Well, hey, let's do a little commercial. Go ahead and state how, what the ship is, and the departure date and return date, and how people can get in touch with you.
absolutely. So probably the best way, because the website page isn't up anymore, probably the best way to contact me would be via social media. So through Instagram at the Jenn Danielle. The sailing is on Virgin Voyages Scarlet Lady. It's departing out of Port of Miami in Miami, Florida. And we are going to be sailing from November 19th through 24th. And we're going to Cozumel as our stop, as well as Virgin Voyages Beach Club at Bimini. So we're going to Bimini on Thanksgiving. So if you want to get away from a cold, windy Thanksgiving, would love to have you join this trip, because we will be in Bimini having a pool party on that day.
Great, great. Now, Virgin Voyages, you clearly have an affinity for Virgin Voyages, although that's not the only brand that you enjoy and that you cruise with. Say a little bit about that?
Yeah. So starting out, I did quite a few Carnival Cruise Line cruises, and I think that they're such a great cruise. So for me, they're the standard that I kind of base everything off of. But what really pushed me towards trying Virgin Voyages was the fact that they do things so differently. And that's one of the things that they're known for kind of standing out for is wanting to change some of the major things that you would see on regular cruises. And so one of the biggest things that I hear and questions that I hear about are the fact that they don't have a buffet. And so I know for me as an original cruiser, I mean, I think my first cruise was maybe like 2014 or 16. That buffet was such a big deal for me and such an exciting thing. And so knowing that there was a cruise line that didn't have that, I was kind of like, I don't know how I'm going to feel about that. But I actually like both ways, and I like the fact that Virgin Voyages does do that a little bit differently. They're very heavy technology based, so everything is run through your app. And of course, the biggest thing is that it's adults only, which makes it amazing
Mm-hmm.
when you want to have like an actual adult getaway. So you're not going to experience like the announcements during the day or them really just kind of like guiding you and doing kind of I won't say kiddie things, but like more of family geared entertainment. You're going to have a full adult experience. And so
Mm-hmm.
those are some of my favorite things about that cruise line over some of the others I've experienced.
Hmm. You know, it's funny when Virgin first came on the scene, I was very hesitant about Virgin because of the no buffets. I mean, buffets kind of drew me to cruise. You know,
Exactly. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had this, I didn't cruise at 18, but I had this 18-year-old mindset. Oh, a buffet, they're gonna lose money on me. That kind of thing. But
That's
then
right.
then after COVID and all that
Hmm.
entails, I'm not so big on buffets anymore. And in fact, I've gone on a cruise post COVID lockdown, and I never went in the buffet. That's rare.
I think that was such perfect timing for them. I know that their first ship, I think, was supposed to come out in 2020, and maybe it got delayed to late 2020 because of COVID. But I think that just happened to be a great change and shift for them because I think a lot of people are like us, and you kind of think cruise lines are synonymous with buffets. So,
hmm
yeah.
hmm So you did what's called the Greek Island Glow itinerary
Yes.
on Resilient Lady. So we're going to talk about the Greek Island Glow, but my first question is the last time you were here, you chatted solely about Scarlet Lady, which
Mhm.
which that's going to be my Virgin Voyage. um, any significant difference you notice between Scarlet Lady and Resilient Lady?
So I will say between the ships themselves, there's very little difference. One of the major areas you'll see a lot of people take photos in front of the like love, laugh, live signs, which have like these little swings, and that's on Scarlet Lady. So
Hmm.
Resilient Lady, instead of that, has a an area with um they're almost like carousel seahorses, and you can sit on them and take photos. And they say something on the back of them. I can't remember what it is. I think it's like brave, fearless, and something. But that photo area is probably the biggest difference I've seen. But the ships are very, very similar. I mean, like everything is located in the same place on both of them. You may have a couple different decor differences. One of the biggest ones I noticed was in that sea terrace room. On the Scarlet Lady, it has like a rainbow curtain in the room where it's like blue, pink, and some other color, maybe like a white or something. But on the Resilient Lady, it's more of a toned down kind of brown modern look.
Hmm.
But like I said, very little difference when it comes to that. Now, some of the larger differences you'll notice are the shows. So that and I don't know, I know Resilient Lady is going to reposition to I think Australia towards the end of this year. But as of right now, they have a show called Persephone, and I say it everywhere. It is the best show I have seen at sea. And it's just about the whole Greek story and all of the story of Persephone. And I'm not a very big Greek history buff, and I didn't know much about Greek history, mythology before going on this trip. But that show was so good and so entertaining, and it replaced the Untitled Dance party thingy, I think is what they call it, or Untitled Dance show
Mm-hmm.
that they do on Scarlet Lady. So those are some of the bigger differences. It's going to be within the events. The food, they have a daily OPA hour, so a happy hour where they do like the pita bread and the Greek chicken and all of that.
So, what is the Greek island glow comprised of?
So it is a 7-day cruise where you are docking out of Athens, Greece. And from there, you go to Santorini, then Rhodes, Greece, Bodrum, Turkey. You have one sea day, and then you do a stay in Mykonos, which is an overnight stay, which was
Mm-hmm.
very new for me and really exciting having an overnight stay.
Yeah, I've never had an overnight stay at a port.
Really? Oh, wow. Okay. So you are in for a treat.
I would love that, but it just has never happened.
You are in for a treat. And I know some of the questions, I get a lot of questions about what that experience is like. Because people are like, is there a curfew or how does it work that it's an overnight stay? And I'm happy to report there is no curfew. So, I mean, you're welcome. You're literally welcome to walk on and off the ship as you please.
Mm-hmm.
They have a shuttle. So the way that port in Mykonos is set up is that you walk out from the ship, and then there's like a little gate, and there's like a shuttle bus. I've heard conflicting things on what time the shuttle bus ends. So it's possible that it does run all night, but the actual city of Mykonos, where kind of like the club and the nightlife and all that is, it's not very far. It is walking distance. But you're able to take advantage of Mykonos and stay in the club if you want to, or pretty much do whatever you want to do. If you want to see a sunrise while you're off the ship, you're able to do that second day. So
Yeah, I've heard of people with overnight. They've actually had a 2-night overnight stay
oh wow.
at a port, and I've heard of people actually getting a hotel room
Mm-hmm.
in the city.
Yep, I've heard that also. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You know, when I had you on in June, I knew full well. I think we talked about it, that I would have you back.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know I would have you back at this point. I thought, might have you back, after the end of the year or something like that. So let me give you a little funny background. So I saw a photo. I think it was I know it was Santorini, and I had no thought of. Well, I should say I've always thought about going to the Greek Isles, but I had nothing booked or anything like that. But I just saw this gorgeous photo, and I forwarded it to the Joy Cruising Podcast Facebook group, and I might have put it on my regular feed as well. And I just said something like, on my bucket list.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's the spooky part. I call it spooky. After I did that, I mean, my feed was just flooded with Santorini photos.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and that's why I thought it was spooky. Because now I know all about, I used to, I'm a former marketing professor, so I understand, digital retargeting, and
Mm-hmm.
that, when you look at something like you're interested in buying, like I don't know, a barbecue grill, you may notice later on you get a lot of posts in your feed,
They search.
advertisements in your feed about barbecue grills. So I understand that,
Right.
but all I did was just say, on my bucket list. I didn't go to any cruise site or anywhere to price it or book it. And so I don't know if this is convenient, a coincidence, but I think this is something Facebook is doing, because
Yeah.
I just get all of these photos. Make a long story short, I ultimately, and I'm not saying this made me book, but I ultimately booked a cruise to the Greek Isles. Not until 2025. But then right after I booked this, and I know this is just coincidence. This is not, has nothing to do with any kind of digital retargeting or anything. But right after I booked, I then I was on YouTube. I was looking at, one of your videos, and I saw you in this gorgeous dress in the Greek Isles. And so I watched the video, and I said, maybe this is selfish, and I'm not going on Virgin. I said maybe this is selfish, but I think it's time to have Jennifer back on because I can talk to her about the Greek island glow, and it kind of fits into my future plans and all of this spookiness about getting these unsolicited posts about Santorini and the Greek island. So anyway, that was my excuse to get you back because I want to hear about the Greek islands, even though I'm not going until 2025. So give us you gave us some highlights. Anything else? Highlights of your trip before I get to the dress, because from what I know from your YouTube, that was quite an adventure. So anything else about the Greek island glow?
I will say if you do it with this Virgin Voyages itinerary, I think that it's so great that you're going on Scarlet Lady first, because the one drawback I will say is that and I guess this can happen with any cruise, but this is the first time I've experienced a cruise with so many different ports and so many interesting ports, is that I felt like I didn't really have a lot of time or energy to spend really enjoying the ship. And I am a cruiser that enjoys the actual ship. I enjoy doing activities on the ship, lounging around in my room and other parts of the ship. And I felt like with this cruise, even though we docked at like maybe 8 or 9 every day, and we didn't have to be back on the ship until like 8 and 9 p.m. a lot of those days. And so, if you spend all that time off the ship each day, you're wiped by the end of the day. And so that's where, they're typically going to start their events and everything. And so for me, I would say that was different and probably one of the most difficult parts. And I think that especially with Virgin Voyages, there's such a great company that has so many different events. I think it's great to experience Scarlet Lady or a ship where maybe you have 2 ports that you go to first, or ports that you would be more familiar with or okay with not spending as much time there, because that Greek trip is I know for a lot of people, price wise and distance wise, it's a once in a lifetime trip. And so while you're there, you really want to maximize and take advantage of getting to visit those different places. And so that's the biggest thing I would say is, like, if you're someone who really wants to experience the ship and experience what it's like to do the cruise, I would say you probably aren't going to get that experience with it. You're going to experience more of the places with a sailing like that.
Yeah, Scarlet Lady, we're going to that'll be my first transatlantic. And we're going.
Yeah, so you'll have plenty of time on the ship. So that's perfect.
Yeah. So we're going to the Med, but that's not the one that we're going on to the Greek islands. So the Greek islands in 25 is actually on a new ship coming out. A lot of excitement about it. It's the Sun Princess on Princess Cruises.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the one that we're going specifically to the Greek islands. So I subtitled this episode "The Dress," and as I said, based on your video, sounds like the dress was quite an adventure.
It definitely was.
And I've shared, by the time this airs, my Facebook group will have seen gorgeous photos. By the way, will have seen the photos of you in the dress, but why did I subtitle this episode "The Dress"?
Look, you're asking me.
Yep.
Well, I will tell you why. Yeah, so the dress was an adventure, and kind of going back to the story you mentioned about saying something about Santorini being on your bucket list, and it kind of feeling like you were almost chased around with photos. That's exactly what the Santorini dress was for me. Now I kind of joked in my video shamelessly, like I really didn't know anything about Santorini before this. Like I've seen beautiful pictures and I know like, the attachment to like the Holy Land and the beautiful white and blue buildings, but I have been seeing people take photos with that dress there everywhere. And I mean, I have posted it over and over. Like I'll see a beautiful picture, and I found a post actually from like last June where I was like, this is like the only thing I have on my bucket list. And it's kind of funny that I ended up getting to go this year because I really didn't think I would ever get to go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so seeing that and just kind of knowing like how beautiful those photos were, it was just something that I always dreamed of doing. And so when I went to Santorini, so the way that I ended up going on this trip, I had maybe 3 weeks before I actually went. So there was a very short planning period between when I knew I was going and trying to put this together. And so it was really interesting. I guess I selfishly think that anywhere that you go, it's very easy to kind of navigate a place just because I've gone to so many of the same ports over and over. But Santorini was a whole new experience for me. And so when we got off of the ship, it was actually one of the first times that I actually had to take a tender from the ship over to land too. So that was it was a lot of things that I knew in my mind, but I didn't realize that I really had to kind of like factor that in transportation wise. And so navigating getting this dress shoot set up was done through Instagram DM. And so you're dealing with, sometimes language barriers and really not knowing what you need to ask to get this thing done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so used to being able to just get off the ship and booking directly with cruise lines for my excursion. So I'm used to like being picked up and delivered to wherever I'm going for my main event.
Mm-hmm.
So this dress deal, everything was coordinated by me. And so I ended up having to, after getting off that tender, find a way to get over to the part of town where they did the photo shoot. And so the biggest thing was just trying to navigate that. And I guess in my mind, I don't know what I was thinking, to be honest. That was the problem. I wasn't thinking. I was excited and I didn't really come up with a plan. And so I thought that I could just get off and like I would see taxis driving around or take an Uber and I could just go and get my photo done. And so that's where all of kind of the dramatics came in because I found out with the time that I got off of the ship, which was smart because you have to take a cable car up Santorini. And that's some good information to know, Paul, because it's a bit of a nightmare trying to get up there, get up that cable car if you don't time it correctly.
Now, let me interrupt, Jennifer. You weren't wearing the dress, right? You had it with you?
No, I was not wearing it. So the good thing is that the dress, when you book the photo shoot, it comes with the dress rental and it comes with the photographer that takes the photos of you. And the whole thing is that it's a flying dress. So they need an assistant that throws the dress as the photographer snaps the photo.
Okay.
So so you come in your regular clothes and then they dress you, which is a whole nother thing because you're technically getting dressed outside or in a pop-up tent. Like I said, this thing really, all I saw was the pretty pictures and I was like, I'm doing this. And so like the logistics, I really didn't know and was not expecting all of that to happen. And so it was difficult getting over to EO, which is where my photo shoot was. Because a lot of the cab services and different water taxis and options to get over there, they stopped going at 3 p.m. I don't know what is with the cutoff at 3 p.m. I don't know if their work day is different or why that was, but it was very difficult to find a ride over there. But I did it. And then that was when all of the chaos started with the, putting on the dress outside and you have like spectators watching. It gets really awkward really fast.
But it worked out.
It did work out. And I'm so happy I did it. I can't say that I would be eager to do it again there in Santorini. Maybe in a different destination. Just because that was a lot. But I'm so happy that I did it. And the pictures did come out amazing. So I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, they did. And sounds like maybe something, you could do a video on, for people who are considering going to, because I know Santorini is, getting a dress and getting photographed is a thing because I've seen it before,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
it might be it sounds like you would have been helped with a little more information before you try to do it, and
Exactly. Yeah.
so it sounds like an opportunity. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I definitely did do a video on it, and I thought that it was going to be a very short, like this is what you need to do, but it's a 20-minute video that's on my channel
Oh,
now.
okay.
So I talk about all of it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
and all the mistakes I made and what you should do too. So
But it sounds like, and maybe I'm assuming, it sounds like it was all worth it.
it was. It definitely
Hmm.
was. Now that I've made it home safely, I say it
Hmm.
was.
Yeah, I mean that photo that could be your new cover page or whatever. But that's up to you.
Oh yeah.
It really
I
looks
have it
nice.
everywhere. Yeah, thank you.
So what projects are you working on right now? I guess you're busy with your group cruise. Anything else?
Yeah, so I am actually migrating into doing more of teaching. So teaching is something that I've always been very passionate about, especially in this influencer realm, since there's so many things to learn. And I know for me, the last 2 years has been a lot of making mistakes and trying to figure out ways to monetize this thing because it can get expensive. People, I think a lot of people don't know that a lot of the trips that you see on my channel or on other travel creators channels, they come out of pocket. And so my goal is to really help up and coming travel creators find ways to start monetizing and actually at least making that money back for the trips. So
Hmm.
that's my primary focus right now, my group trip, and putting together programs that are going to help people with that.
Well, I'm sure that I can benefit from checking that out because it's not like I'm spending a whole lot of money, but I'm
Yeah.
certainly not making a whole lot of money. So,
I
um,
understand that. Yeah, yeah,
and I recently did a post that said my bucket list runneth over because when I talk to guests like yourself and others, I get ideas and
yeah.
I'm adding to my bucket list, you know, probably adding something new every week. so
Oh
so
wow.
I don't know how I'm gonna be able to check all these things off, but it's nice to aspire to things. So what's next beyond the group cruise? What's next in terms of travel for you? Anything booked?
Yeah, so right now I'm currently booked on Icon of the Seas for the inaugural. So the year is winding down for me as far as I know. I tend to be so last minute, but so I only have my group cruise right now. And so Icon of the Seas inaugural is January 27th, I think, or somewhere around there. So I'm really looking forward to that because I've only done one or other Royal Caribbean cruise. So
Hmm.
that's pretty much all I have planned going into next year right now. But my goal is to really branch out and try some different cruise lines because I have kind of I tend to do the same ones over and over and over. So um,
Hmm.
definitely looking at some different cruise lines and different itineraries. So definitely lots to come next year.
Well, Icon of the Seas, I envy you. I mean, I love Royal, but I looked at the
Yeah.
prices on the early prices on Icon. I'll wait. I'll wait until they become just a little bit more affordable.
I understand. This was one of the first trip I think where I was like, "Hey, who wants to come with me? Because I can't do this one solo." It was
Hmm.
pretty ridiculous. So, yeah,
So what's on your bucket list? Longer term. It doesn't necessarily have to be cruising. Could be
mhm,
life in general.
yeah. So the biggest thing is to just really, really to hone into this teaching thing that I want to do because that's always been the core of what I've wanted to do is help to empower other people um,
Hmm.
with some of the things I've learned and experience I've had. So that's probably the biggest thing, and it's really been really a fear for me, just feeling like maybe I don't know enough to actually talk about those things. But
Hmm.
now I'm starting to see I've had a lot of successes and definitely a lot of failures and enough space to learn some things. So that's probably the biggest thing for me is just really creating a successful space for other people to learn and grow through travel. You know, that's always
Hmm.
been a big thing for me. It's always been bigger than cruising for me. It's more about the growth and the opportunity that you get to learn about yourself. Um,
Hmm.
as far as travel bucket lists, it's funny. Greece was like the only thing that was on my list, and so I've been kind of thinking through it. I would like to see Paris. And I don't think I mentioned this on here, but this was my first international trip too. So this was the first time I flew internationally, and so everything was a big deal about this trip I just completed. So now it's
Wow.
almost like the world is open to me now, and I didn't even see beyond getting to like travel internationally. So that's why my list is so small. Like I had Dallas, Texas on my list. So, and I just did that a couple of weeks ago too. So it's funny, but those are the types of places that were on my list because international travel just didn't even seem like it was going to happen for me. So yeah.
I laughed, but to be honest, I actually have the Dallas Cowboys football stadium as a bucket list
Oh,
item.
nice. I did see it while I was
So
there. I didn't get to go, but I did see it. So I went to a
yeah,
women's conference. Yeah.
uh, I'm not a Dallas Cowboys fan,
Right.
but I just want I just want to go in that facility. I
Oh,
mean,
I'm sure it's got to be
I'd
like an
go there to see
insane. Yeah.
see a fight. See when I was in when I my last job, I was an administrator at a university, and we made I think it was a Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament,
Nice.
and our school got to play there. They also got eliminated there.
Oh,
So a lot of folks from the school traveled there, but yeah, I'd love to just experience that stadium.
yeah.
So don't worry. Dallas being on your bucket list is not a whole lot different than I had, an aspect of Dallas on my bucket list.
Right.
Um, so before we let you go, Jennifer, let me close with a few light questions. First of all, I know that you have a huge following. So let me take this time to welcome the Jenn Danielle fans, family, and friends who might be listening. We hope you've enjoyed the Joy of Cruising podcast, and we'll come back for future and past episodes. Um, Now, since I asked you my cruising fun questions last time you were here, I'll ask you about my next two favorite subjects: music and sports.
Okay, nice. So two of my favorites too.
Yep, good, good, good. So, tell our listeners and your fans what's playing these days in your Bluetooth speaker, headphones, CD player, or however you consume music.
You know, it's funny. I am such an old soul, and so, but more recently, I have just been stuck on like 80s and 90s. So it's so funny you asked this because this morning I was just listening to like Let It Whip. I wanted to hear No Parking on the Dance Floor. So that's like
Hmm.
actually playing this morning. But as far as what I listen to often it is probably like 90s R&B. So really big R&B fan, but I listen to a little bit of everything. So yeah.
Well, speaking of R&B, Jennifer, and this is off a little bit off topic, but it relates to cruising. I just decided to go on a. Have you seen the Maxwell cruise?
What? Oh wow. Yeah,
Have you seen it?
I have. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he's got a great lineup. Yeah, so it's only a 4-day cruise, and that made it tough because when we have driven down to South Florida a couple of times, I have a good friend who lives in North Florida, so
Mhm.
we'll usually stop there and then drive down to Miami. That's worth it, for like a 7-day cruise, but for a 4-day cruise, I looked at flights and I think we're going to fly down and so that should be a lot of fun. And because it's only 4 days, and there's so many artists, I don't know how they're gonna do all that in 4 days. So I'm not gonna go all out on a room.
Yeah.
This will be the first time since when I grew up, not grew up, when my daughters grew up, and I would cruise with them. Way back, we would do inside cabins because that's what I could afford. I'm thinking I'm going to get an inside cabin because I don't plan on ever being in the cabin with all that music going on. So
Absolutely, yeah. And that seems like such a good time. Yeah, I've seen that there are a couple of celebrities and like TV show cruises. So I'm really happy to see the themes that are coming out of that. But I'm really excited to hear about your experience on this Maxwell one. So
yeah, I love this whole notion of theme cruising.
yeah,
It's
me too.
all of the good things about cruising magnified because you're seeing, people you. In January, I went on the smooth jazz cruise.
Ooh, okay.
I mean, it was literally there were at least 20 acts that I have either seen live in concert somewhere, paid money to see, or would see live,
Mhm.
and you see them all in one. Now obviously these theme cruises are higher because
The
you're
acts,
paying
yeah.
for entertainment, but from a value standpoint, it's actually not crazy expensive when you consider what you get. But anyway, so 90s R&B, good, good, good. What's the last live concert you attended?
The last live was Usher in Las Vegas in June. So I'm very excited about the Super Bowl announcement and the potential of a world tour afterwards.
Yeah, I saw him. I know he has a residency in Vegas now, but I saw him on a tour.
Mhm.
And when he was announced for the Super Bowl, I said, I can't name, other than someone who's been on there before, like Beyonce, I can't name a better choice for the
Exactly.
Super Bowl. He's
I agree.
absolutely going to turn it out.
Yeah. And it's
So,
so funny because the first time the thing that made me really excited to see him in Vegas was I watched him perform during All-Star Weekend, just on television. And the show that
hmm
he put on there, and it was a smaller stage, and the show he put on, I was like, I have to see him in concert. And so I
yeah.
actually have made 2 trips down to Vegas to see him. And I'm still excited about the Super Bowl and still excited about, a potential world tour. So yeah,
hmm hmm
awesome performer.
Okay, so related to the two previous questions, what are you listening to and what's your last live concert? Who's your favorite artist of all time?
It's funny. Everybody knows my favorite artist of all time is Genuine. Like it's
Really?
the night. Yes, yes. All times. Like it's so funny because probably since COVID, I've
hmm
slowed down a little bit, but I have been a fan since the beginning of his career. So I remember being my sister jokes and she's like, how were you going to these concerts when you were 7? You had no business listening to this music that young. And so she's in her 20s now, and she's just like, I just listened to the lyrics of those songs, and you had no business. And I was like, I didn't know what it was talking about. I just knew I liked it. So every time he comes to Atlanta, I'm like, I have to find a way to go. But I've slowed down a little bit, but it's been, 20 something years of seeing him perform, and I still don't get tired of it. So he's definitely my favorite artist.
Okay, let's. I'm learning all about you. Let's shift gears a little bit. What's your favorite sports team?
University of Memphis Tigers. So where I went to school, University of Memphis. It's funny you mentioned about going to the school you were working for, going to the tournament. So technically the University of Memphis went to the Final Four my freshman year. And so I
hmm
came in expecting greatness from the basketball team. So Coach John Calipari was our head coach, and Derrick Rose was a freshman. So I went
Oh
to school.
wow.
Yeah, so I went to school with Derrick Rose his freshman year, and of course it was technically thrown out the entire season for violations, but it happened. I remember I was there. So so yeah, and so I'm pretty excited about him now playing for the Memphis Grizzlies. So he's back, in the city this year. So I'm excited for the season start. But I am a huge basketball fan, and I actually started my college career, I went to school for sports marketing. So
Okay.
I've always been kind of in the entertainment realm and in the sports realm. So yeah, definitely my favorite team is still my college alma mater.
And who's your favorite athlete?
Favorite athlete? It switches. It switches. Of all time, I would have to go with Jordan. But for right now, Kevin Durant. So
Okay.
the only thing about and it's funny because my team has to keep changing because he moves around. So wherever Kevin Durant is, that's usually, what I'm a fan of. So
Well, Jennifer, you still all right with me, but I'm a LeBron guy.
I look, you have to give props to LeBron, like family wise as a person, businessman, I am a huge LeBron fan too. So
Good. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for coming back on the Joy of Cruising podcast.
Thank you for having me. This was fun. I really enjoyed getting to talk to you about this trip, especially while it's fresh, since I've only been back maybe a month. So
Yeah, and it's fun talking to you, and I know we will have you back again. It'll be in 24,
right.
but I like talking to you. I like the cruising that you do. You still have, I do these interviews, as you know, every week. And, I've interviewed, well-known stand-up comedians and all that. But
I've been listening to that. Congratulations. You've had some heavy hitters recently.
but still, the funniest line ever is still Jennifer. When I asked you about what was that Mexican restaurant on Scarlet Lady?
Pico Agave with the cricket.
When I asked you about, or when I said I know she's not going to drink those crickets.
I intend to do it again on my group cruise too. So I have not had a cricket since that day, but I am going to do it. I'm making my group do it. They don't know that yet. So
well, your response was just priceless. So I'm not even going to tell the listeners. If you haven't seen it, go back and see it just for that line.
I remember what it was. That's funny.
All right, Jennifer, you take care of yourself. And as they say, we'll see you on the ocean.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you guys for listening.
The Joy of Cruising and Cruising Interrupted, each $16.99 plus shipping, and new release, The Joy of Cruising Again for $18.99 can be ordered at the link on thejoyofcruisingpodcast.com. For each of the 3 books, use the discount code Joy of Cruising Podcast and get $4 off. The Joy of Cruising books are also available at Amazon. Order the ebook at Amazon or your favorite online retailer. Stay in touch by joining the Joy of Cruising Podcast Facebook group or following the Joy of Cruising Podcast on Instagram. We're constantly adding new shows. Please leave a review and tell a friend about us. We hope you enjoyed this brief escape to the ocean. See you next week.